Alright guys, what's going on today? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Verse on Anime Verse. Now today I'm going to be talking about the new Boruto Chapter 56. Alright, there's a lot of stuff in this chapter. Let's get down to it. Now if you haven't read it, spoilers ahead. Alright, so let's get to it. So at first it starts off with Samir on the cover page. I don't know why they gave Samir on the cover page. She is an essential character, don't get me wrong with that. But she only has like 4 pages in this, so I'm not sure why she was, given it. And her interaction with Kawaki regarding Boruto and them was very short. There's not much to it, but I guess they put her there to show that she's gonna be one of the main people in the future, as she is Kawaki's caretaker, as I'll explain soon. So you start off with Boruto being on TV, and he's having an interview on how he defeated the Otsutsuki and how he is the hero of the village. You can tell Boruto's kind of upset by it. He doesn't really want to do an interview. He's like, I want it to be over already. So then the next scene cuts out to Kawaki and Amato and Dr. Katsuki. They're treating Kawaki's arm, and they're able to restore Kawaki's arm. And you see Samir tell Kawaki, I'm going to inject you with this. It's going to sting. And Kawaki's like, I'm not a snotty-nosed brat. Just do whatever you got to do. And you can tell she's kind of shocked by him being so blunt about it. And then Amato's like, watch your attitude, And Kawaki's like, well, she's not your assistant. Why are you acting all smug and bossy? And Dr. Katsuki is like, Samir actually wanted to do that herself. She wanted to become his assistant so that, she could learn more about Kawaki and she could treat him better. She says, I still only know the basics, but you can rest assured from here on out, of course, avoiding injury would help too. That she's going to be his personal caretaker. So I'm predicting Kawasumi in the future. The way Kawaki looks at her, he gives her like a weird care-looking eye. If you look at the bottom panel, he looks at her and he kind of has like that weird look where he's being, considerate of her. And then she's like, I like it when you talk about Boruto. He's like, wait a second, do you like Boruto or something? And she gets all, flustered and everything. She's like, you know what, let's keep it a little secret. And Dr. Katsuki is like, well, it's very obvious, Kawaki's like, whatever, it doesn't matter to me as long as you're able to do your job. I feel like Kawaki does care, because when he leaves the room, you can see Amato calls him out and he's like, wait, never mind. And Kawaki's like, whatever. And he just leaves and he gives a little look back. And you can see Samir is kind of, she's a bit, surprised on, their interaction. So I'm assuming there's more to Kawaki and Samir than meets the eye. Now, I know a lot of guys are going to be like, yo, it's Borusumi and shit like that. No, it's going to be Borusara and Kawasumi. I don't care what anyone says. That's my opinion on this, all right? I ship them that way. To each their own, okay? But I'm assuming Samir plays a pivotal role in this. The reason why she's being close to Kawaki and she's his caretaker, I feel like Kawaki and her are going to grow on each other. When Boruto shows that he doesn't have feelings for Samir, she's probably going to be heartbroken and she's going to be left down. And I think that's when Kawaki comes in to swoop her. But I guess something happens with Code or something like that, and Kawaki, goes on a rampage. This is what I predicted last time as well. Kawaki does something regarding Samir, because he even has a scarf on in the latest, in the episode 1 in chapter 1. He has a scarf on as well, which could have been knitted by Samir for all we know. But I feel like Sarada and Boruto admit their feelings to each other and Samir's left out. And I think Kishimoto's trying to create a little love triangle here. We don't know how it's going to go down. It could be a 4-way triangle for all we know. Alright, 2 characters like each other and the other 2 characters are, a bit lost, but I guess they end up being together. Anyways, getting back to the part, go back to Boruto. He's on television and, he's done his interview. And then you can see Sarada's like, geez, Boruto, acting all moonstruck. Now, if you look at the meaning moonstruck, it means you're mentally unstable, or you could be, unstable due to romantic feelings. But we know for Boruto, he's depressed. Shikadai's like, cut him some slack, Sarada. He's putting on a brave face. He's more depressed than any of us. And you can see Sarada's sad face. She hides her feelings a lot. You could tell. All right, she hides her feelings quite a bit. She's like hugging the pillow. There's a reason why she's hugging the pillow. You never see Sarada do any of this stuff. She's hugging the pillow on purpose. You can see her looking really sad when Shikadai mentions that Boruto's more depressed than anyone. And then they're talking about how Boruto's karma is being kept under, the wrap, and him, going on rampage, all sorts of that stuff. And Shikadai's like, yeah, he's being secretly watched around the clock, and he's like, it's pretty unbearable. And then Sarada talks about how we can't go on any missions. It's too dangerous to go on missions because of Boruto. And she's like, we don't have a 3-man cell. So, like I said before, I think Kawaki actually takes over Boruto's spot. And I think Boruto goes on training, or he leaves the village. And I think when he comes back, he sees the village, everything destroyed. I think that's what happens. But yeah, I think Boruto's going to leave and Kawaki joins the 3-man cell. So I think Kawaki joins and their 3-man team goes back to normal. Shikadai's like, it was my dad's decision. And then Shikadai's like, his dad said, you know, to make Boruto, you know, the hero of the village, so it would cheer him up and everything. And Shikadai's, it's so insulting because you could tell in the first panel, Boruto didn't want to be there. I guess Boruto doesn't like that type of attention. Chocho's like, you know, why not? You know, why does he get to be on TV and stuff? And Inojin's like, stop complaining. Anyways, Sarada's like, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming Boruto or anything, but it's just hard to come to grips with all of this. Like, what's gonna happen next? Mitsuki's like, well, at least in regards to Boruto's karma, they can't just sit around and do nothing. They're gonna need to be proactive. And he's like, Master Shikamaru might have an idea or two. And then the scene cuts out to Boruto sitting on the 7th Hokage stone face. He looks down and he sees the girls looking at him, and they're like, oh, he's so cute, it's Boruto. And then he waves at them and he sees karma and he puts his hand down. And Boruto's so depressed about it. And then Kawaki approaches him. He's like, why are you being so depressed? He's like, I thought you'd be more, you know, down, but you're not. He's like, about karma, he's like, I've been over it a long time ago. He's like, I don't know how I should act or anything. And if you noticed, Boruto is still wearing Sasuke's headband, scratched headband, meaning he doesn't consider himself a ninja at the moment because he doesn't know what he's gonna do. He could hurt everybody for all he knows, and he's actually scared. Him and Kawaki then start talking to each other, and he's like, my karma's gone, but he's like, we're both 80% Otsutsuki, and he's like, your karma is still being extracted. And then you can see Boruto's actually really depressed, and he's like, when you finish becoming Momoshiki's vessel, he's like, you'll disappear somewhere. And he's like, and that bastard will supposedly resurrect in your body. And Boruto's like, it really sucks. I feel like I'm stuck in a nightmare. You could tell Boruto doesn't want to do any of this. That's why he has Sasuke's scratched headband on. Alright, there's a reason why he's like that. Otherwise, he would have gave his headband back. And if you think about it, actually a couple of days have passed since they have come back. They've finally given a small gap. It's from chapter 26 all the way to chapter 55. There's probably a couple days gap, maybe a couple weeks. But now they're finally taking a little break here. And they're finally allowing, you know, them to rest up and everything. So anyways, getting back to this, Kawaki said he thought of something. He's like, why not prepare your own vessel by giving karma to somebody else? And Boruto's like, what? My own vessel? He's like, that's crazy. And Kawaki's like, I came up with this. He's like, if Momoshiki ends up resurrecting, you'll disappear. And he's like, maybe you could reincarnate too. Since, you know, he's like, we're basically 80% Otsutsuki, so we should be able to use their powers. And Boruto's like, that's crazy. He's like, I'm no way gonna sacrifice somebody else to give karma. He's like, don't worry about that. There's somebody named Code. So then the panel cuts out to Code. Now Code goes to some Iceland, and he's somewhere in the back country somewhere. I'm assuming up north. And then the panel cuts out to Naruto, Amato, and Shikamaru talking about Code, and he's the last person of the inner left. He's like, if we defeat Code, he's like, you know, it's done. Like, Kara's no more. But then he's like, be careful of Code. He's like, he's not like the others. He was entrusted with the Ten-Tails, and he's like, the Ten-Tail poses a big threat. He's like, I don't need to remind you. And then Shikamaru confirms everyone's doubts with Sasuke's eye. He's like, and yes, Sasuke's space-time ninjutsu has been disabled alongside with his eye. Now, when he says disabled, I feel like you could bring it back. All right, remember, there's always disabled and enabled. All right, so if there's a possibility, that means Sasuke could get his eye back, because, you know, if you look at the wording, enabled and disabled. Enabled, you can most likely get it back. He doesn't say temporarily or anything, but he just says, you know, so we don't know what happened to Sasuke. Nothing is shown about him in this chapter. Anyways, going back to Shikamaru, he's like, Boruto can't control his powers. Even so, if you got there, there's no guarantee you'll be able to return back safely. And then Naruto's like, this Code, he's able to travel freely to and from that space. And Amaru's like, yeah, of course. He doesn't have space-time ninjutsu, but there are other abilities that make it possible. And then Naruto's like, we need to get rid of him, you know, before anything. He's dangerous. And Amaru's like, you're not wrong, but be careful. Don't underestimate him. He's like, Code, he's not like any of them. He's special. And then you see Code going to a place where Boro kept the cyborgs that Amaru made. And he basically ends up fighting the gatekeepers. And here you see Code's powers being activated. His white karma seal being activated for once. And then basically he starts fighting the two gatekeepers. And then it goes back to Boruto and Kawaki. And then Kawaki's telling Boruto how Code was actually alongside Kawaki when they're both being tested with the karma when they were little kids. And he's like, Code ended up surviving, but he's like, I was the only one that was able to accept the karma. And then he says Code wasn't able to become a vessel, but he was able to get the karma seal. Then Kawaki's like, Code didn't die for some reason. He's like, he was compatible with the karma, but he wasn't a vessel. And then it cuts back to Code fighting the gatekeepers again. And you see Code use his claws and he starts attacking them. While Code is fighting the gatekeepers, he ends up using his belts. Now, if you look carefully, the belts scatter around the enemies. All right. And then you see Code vanish and they're like, where did Code go? And he pops out of the black bands and he ends up stabbing one of the gatekeepers through the chest. And he's dead. This part, you look real carefully, Code is able to put his belt on the enemy as well. And if you look real carefully, you can see Code puts his hand in the ground inside the belt. Now, he doesn't, let me repeat that again. He doesn't move within the belt. He just puts his hand with his claw inside the belt, and his claw comes out of the other pieces of the belt. If you look, a piece of the belt is on the gatekeepers, and it comes out of his chest. But remember, the gatekeeper's not dead here. The gatekeeper's like, no, don't kill me. The belt is basically a space-time ninjutsu item. Decides to cut his throat. You can see that he moves his hand and cuts his throat. That means that the enemy you put the belt on, they won't die. But when you attack through the belt, you could kill them. And I feel like that's how he's gonna slash Boruto's eye. He's gonna get close to Boruto, he's gonna put the belt on him, and Boruto's not gonna notice, and boom, his eye ends up getting scratched. Now, we might see the eye being scratched this chapter or next chapter. The reason I say that is because Boruto still has Sasuke's headband on. He hasn't returned Sasuke's headband. That means Sasuke is still being healed somewhere or something like that. I don't know what's going on, and he probably hasn't talked to Boruto yet. But Boruto's gonna end up going training, and then I think Code is gonna come and slash his eye, just like how he killed the gatekeeper. So that's what I think is gonna happen to Boruto. When he appears to Boruto, he's gonna throw his belt on him, and he's gonna end up slicing his eye, even though he tries killing Boruto. Or when Boruto transforms into Momoshiki, he fights Code. He knows how to defeat Momoshiki is by breaking the horn off, maybe, or waking Boruto up by removing the horn. I think that's when he slices Boruto's eye using the belt. Anyways, getting back to the manga, and then you see Code destroy his enemies, and then he goes on to enter. And then he goes back to Shikamaru, Amado, and them. And Amado tells them that Code doesn't have a karma, but he has limiters placed on him. He's like, he is real strong. He's stronger than Jigen. Now, the keyword is Jigen, not Ishiki. The reason I say that is because Ishiki was limited to Jigen's body. All right. Now, if Ishiki came out, he was strong. We've seen him in chapter 52, 53. He's pretty strong. Jigen alone was able to get his ass kind of whooped by Kakashi Koji because he was weakened by Naruto and Sasuke in the first fight. So that's why, you know, Jigen was able to go. But Amado's like, I placed limiters on Code. He's like, Code is strong. He's like, Code probably the strongest one out of all of them. And he's like, to avoid undermining Jigen's position as leader, he's like, I placed limiters on him, and the only way to remove these limiters is through me. He tells Naruto and Shikamaru that if I ever get caught and he wants to awaken those limiters, or he wants to take the limiters off, he's like, it's done. He's like, you got to make sure I don't get caught. He's like, unlike you guys, I'll give in under the pressure if I ever get caught. And then Amado talks about how Code worships Ishiki as a god, and he's like, if Code finds out that anything happened to Ishiki, he'll come after everybody. And then Amado mentioned that there were several cyborgs that he made that greatly surpassed Jigen's powers. Remember, this is Jigen, not Ishiki. Jigen could have been defeated, but Ishiki wouldn't have a vessel then if he comes out of Jigen's body. He's like, I had all these cyborgs that surpassed Jigen's power, but he's like, they're all disposed by Jigen's order. But we find out that's a lie later on in the chapter. He's like, the reason I made these was just in case, you know, I have to fight against Jigen or Ishiki. He was like, I would have them as backup. He came up with the idea with Kakashi Koji. So then he goes talking about Code again. He's like, if he finds out Ishiki's been defeated, he will likely seek retribution. And Naruto's like, then I'll be a target for sure. Worst case, Boruto too. And Amado's like, I've been marked since I betrayed Kara, and he's like, Kawaki as well. So the four of them, something's gonna happen between the four of them. Now, Naruto doesn't have Kurama. Naruto is actually kind of scared that something might happen to him, but he's more worried about Boruto. And then Naruto tells Shikamaru, he's like, you know what? Let's call a 5K summit. And he's like, I want to share our chronology and intel with the other villagers. Now, if you look, they didn't have a 5K summit since chapter 26. A lot of stuff has happened back and forth since chapter 26. Like I said, in my opinion, in my idea, I think only maybe a week or so or 2 weeks had passed since Kawaki was found, and they're able to push everything. Because from chapter 26 to 30, Kawaki goes back to the village, you know, he learns more. Chapter 32s, 33s, Naruto fights Delta. Right after the Delta fight, Sasuke, Naruto, and Jigen fight, which I believe, like I said, there's probably a day or two gap in between each. And then right after that fight, 2 hours within, Kakashi Koji fights Ishiki and slash Jigen. And then literally maybe 10 minutes after Kakashi Koji is defeated, Ishiki comes to the village, and you see Boruto, Kawaki, Naruto, Sasuke fight happen, which leads up to chapter 53, 54. Alright, so that's why I believe it all happens a couple of hours span time in their verse, or to a couple of days to weeks. I don't think it's gonna be a couple months long, but I'm pretty sure it's maybe like a week or 2 weeks in total, because there are little breaks here and there. After chapter 36, 37, or 38, whenever they fought Jigen, Sasuke and Naruto fought Jigen, literally I think about a couple of hours had passed since they fought him, and they're gonna go fight him again. Because even Amado says you had 2 hours to, you know, heal up or whatever. The chronology there is a bit different. That's why Naruto's like, let's tell them what happened from this. Anyways, getting back to Boruto and Kawaki. Boruto's like, you know, he's like, now that you think about it, it's possible I'm able to transfer the karma. And Kawaki's like, since, you know, we're Otsutsuki's, we're already 80% or whatever, he's like, we should be able to use their special ninjutsus and space-time ninjutsus. And then Boruto's like, this guy Code, he already has a karma, right? And he's like, is it even possible to give him a different karma? Kawaki's like, I have no idea, but at the very least, he survived being given karma. That's what's the key. That means if Boruto gives his karma to Code, most likely Momoshiki himself will be gone, but I think Boruto will still have the powers of the karma. Or Kawaki ends up getting Momoshiki's powers, or Momoshiki's vessel himself, and he's able to reawaken his karma. But we don't know how it's going to go down. All right, the way the wording here, it's all prediction. The way Kishimoto's back, everything they say relates to something in the future. But Boruto's like, he's like, I don't really feel like forcing this on anybody. And Kawaki's like, well, you got no choice unless you want to die. But he's like, let me tell you something. Code is strong. He's like, he's stronger than Delta and Boro. And you could tell Boruto he's serious when he heard that he's stronger than Boro, because they fought Boro and they got their ass whooped. Only Momoshiki, when he took over Boruto's body, was able to defeat Boro. So that's how you know it's serious. And then Boruto mentions that he's like, Dad no longer has Kurama's power, so he won't be as strong as he used to be. And he's like, besides, we can't just keep depending on him forever. We gotta step up. This was Kishimoto's way of powering down Sasuke and Naruto, because even Boruto himself says, he's like, we gotta step up. Basically, they're giving the spotlight to the new gen now, because they're like that. The show is Boruto, so they're giving the spotlight to the new gen. And Boruto's like, I don't know how strong this Code guy is, but he's like, do you know Kawaki? What we shinobi do in times like these? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, we train, duh, let's get to it. So that's how you know Boruto's gonna go training, meaning I think next chapter, or I think by chapter 60 they're gonna do a time skip, because they're gonna show at least 3 chapters or whatever, because the new volume has started. Now we have 4 chapters in this volume, and they're probably going to do a little bit of training. They're going to show who all these people are. Now Boruto snapped out of his depression and he's ready to go. So then the panel cuts back to Code, and Code goes to meet some guy named Bug. Now Bug looks like the gatekeeper or whatever of wherever Boro stored those. These guys all follow Boro's religious group or cult or whatever he is. Code's like, Jigen is dead and most likely Boro is too. And then Code's like, take me to these cyborgs that were stored here. He's like, the ones that were supposed to be scrapped. He's like, though I don't know his motives, maybe some ace up his sleeve. And he's like, anyways, take me to them. And you can see Bug is a bit surprised. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know anything. And then Code gives him a weird stare, and you could tell Bug gets scared. And then Bug takes him to a person named Ida. And then Bug's like, what are you stirring up, Code? And you look at Ida. Now Ida looks like a mixture of Hinata, most likely a mixture of Hinata and slightly Delta. All right, and she has some weird symbols on her waist. She has a Saturn, she has 2 stars, a moon, and another star on the left side, and I don't know what the spiky one is. I think that's a sun. I could be wrong. But yeah, he looks at her and he's like, hello, Ida. And he's like, you who know everything in this world. I feel like she has a power where she's able to tell the future and everything. And I think that's why he goes to her. Maybe she has a Byakugan like Momoshiki that is able to tell the future. Anyways, this is what happens in chapter 56. I know there's quite a bit of stuff to explain this. It's quite hectic. Time for predictions. Now, what I predict is Boruto is going to get his eye scratched out for sure by Code. All right, you can tell by the Wolverine claws right away. He's going to get his eye scratched out by Code. I think after he's going to find out everything about Boruto from Ida. I think that's why he goes to Ida. If you think about it, Ida is a weird person. Now, this is somebody who's stronger than Jigen. You know it's serious. Now, I don't think she's going to be the one to attack or anything. I feel like he's going to ask her some questions because he says she's the one that knows everything in this world. Maybe she's going to ask him, how do I get back Ishiki? How do I revive Ishiki? Probably going to tell him that you need Kawaki, you need this and that, like, you know, stuff like that. And I feel like she's going to have a certain dojutsu. Like, you could tell the symbols under her eyes, they don't look normal. I feel like she's going to have some special eye power that's going to tell her the future or something like that. And Code is asking her these questions and how he's going to proceed. And I think she tells him that you will succeed in doing whatever you want, but she's like, there'll be one person, you know, you got to worry against, and he's going to be Boruto. I feel like she tells him about the Jogen, and this goes back to Toneri telling Boruto about the Jogen in the anime. He's like, your eye will shoulder the fate of the world. And since Ida is the one who knows everything about this world, she's going to tell Code something that's going to end up destroying the whole world, and Boruto's going to end up, you know, the one fixing it all. And I think that's why he maybe goes after Boruto's Jogen and scratches his eye. After he finds out, he probably sneaks up on Boruto and he's going to end up scratching his eye out. He's not going to kill Boruto because remember, he needs a vessel for the divine tree. He's either going to take over Kawaki's body and he's going to feed Boruto to the tree. That's why I don't think he's going to end up killing Boruto. And I think it's going to happen when Boruto goes training. Now, Boruto snapped out of his depression. He's going to go training. And now I think we're going to be nearing the time skip. Reason I say that is because we just started the new volume and it's going to be 4 chapters in this volume. So what? We have of this chapter, the next chapter. So we're not going to get the time skip, I think, by July. That's what I think. I think by July, we might actually get the time skip when the next volume starts, around chapter 60, 61. Because Boruto's going to be training, and now they got to do a little bit of explaining on how Boruto gets a scar and how the Jogan activates. Because now we're 56 chapters in, and the Jogan hasn't activated. So, it's, you know, it's getting a little suspect at this point. Anyways, they got to explain about the Jogan, and I think Code's going to end up scratching his eye out, and Boruto is going to get the scratch with Sasuke's headband on. If you look, he still has Sasuke's headband on, so I'm pretty sure he's going to get the scratch in the next couple of chapters. And I think Code's going to come back, and he's going to kill a lot of people in the village. And even Naruto's like, well, I'm a target too. And he doesn't mention Sasuke, but I'm pretty sure Sasuke is a target as well. And they haven't shown Sasuke yet. That means I think Sasuke is being healed, and I don't know how it's going to go down. I feel like a lot of stuff's going to go down. I feel like a lot of people are going to get killed now. They're going to post some Bleach 1,000-year blood war type shit, and people are going to get murked left and right. It's going to be crazy. Also, for the Borusumi, Kawasumi fans and the Borusara fans, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be Borusara. There's nothing confirmed in this chapter. Kawaki just asked her if she liked Boruto. She's like, yeah. She's like, let's keep it on the down low. She didn't say yeah. She doesn't confirm it. She just says, let's keep it our little secret. She doesn't say yes or no to him. And like I said, I think Kawaki is going to make Sumire end up falling in love with him, or he ends up falling in love with her. She's going to be his personal caretaker, meaning she's going to get to know Kawaki more, and I feel like she's going to get closer to Kawaki, and some messed up shit's going to go down, and Kawaki's then going to lose it all too. We still got to see how Boruto loses it all. I don't think Boruto's going to go rogue. Now, if I look at the theory, I don't think Boruto will go rogue at all. I think the future Boruto we see is somebody who's more like somebody who's been depressed and somebody who, you know, was shaken. Because after what Boruto did in chapter 53, 54, he was pretty scared. He's pretty scared on what happened to him, and I think that caused him to, you know, man up a bit more and, you know, become less bratty, and I guess he becomes more conscious on what to do. And I think he moves away during training, and I think Kawaki takes the role of Boruto in their 3-man cell, because they are short on a person and their team is suspended at the moment. So that's what I predict. All this stuff's going to happen. We're going to find out in the next 3 chapters. Now, the time skip, like I said, I think is chapter 60. I thought it was going to be 57, 58, but it doesn't look like that. Because I think the way they're going to do the time skip, they're going to start off a complete new volume that's going to have a new picture on the front. So I think that's how they're gonna play it. Anyways, this is what I think of future predictions, and this is me going over chapter 56. I know there's quite a bit of stuff in here, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. Stay tuned for my future videos, and peace out.